Hey guys, you're on the bench with Matt, and we've got the Syma X5C that we're going to use for an example today. What this video wanted to be about is just the bare bone, absolute basics of what you need to know to fly a quadcopter for the first time. So I assume if you're watching, you probably either just got a drone or you're looking at getting one. If you're still shopping, I definitely recommend starting out with a toy grade quad, you know, something in the $50 price range where if you do lose it or wreck it or break it, there's not a huge loss there and repairs are cheap. But the first and most important thing that you need to understand about how a quadcopter operates is that two of the motors on opposing arms, which we're looking in the back here, this would be the front side, but two of the motors spin in a clockwise rotation. The other two motors spin in a counterclockwise rotation. So what that means is you have two props that create lift in a clockwise rotation and two that create lift in a counterclockwise rotation. So if your props are not put on properly or in the correct position, then you're not going to have a good time. More than likely, it's not going to fly at all. May flip over on takeoff. So one way that I learned from the beginning, just to take a quick glance and know my props are on right, is that you know, if you look at the front or back of the quad, and you've got your propellers straight in line with each other like I have here, all props will dive into the inside. So the top edges are the highest edge, the inside edge are the lowest edge. They're all diving in. So that's a really easy way just to at a glance know that your props are on right. And what that means is each one of them are spinning outward. So as they spin outward, they're creating uplift. But that's the first thing you're going to have to get down is just making sure your props are on correctly. There should be instruction. Most props are marked. Sometimes even the arms are marked. But so you get your props on, get that out of the way. The next thing to look at is the actual controls of the quadcopter. So mode 2 is going to be the most common. Most of them also offer mode 4, but we're going to talk about mode 2. What mode 2 is your throttle will be on the left stick. So throttle up to raise it in height, throttle down to lower it. Up, down. So throttle is going to be your easiest one, but if it's your first time, it's going to take a minute for you to incorporate all the controls and directions. And we'll do a flight demo here in a minute, and just wanted to kind of show some of the best ways to learn and practice. But so your throttle is on the left stick, up and down. Let's move over to the right stick. What your right stick does would be your forward and backwards. So you press the right throttle forward, the quad tilts and moves forward. You press the right throttle backwards, the quad tilts and moves backwards. The next thing we're going to look at is the banking, which would be the right stick, and what that does is it banks the quad side to side. So press left, banks to the left, press right, press it right. And most quadcopters will have some kind of lights or some form of lights, especially beginner quads, so you do know the orientation, so you can tell which way your quadcopter is facing. The next thing, so with what we've talked about so far, you can, and this is how I recommend learning, is using those basic three directions and keeping the quadcopter facing away from you at all times so that the back is towards you. And what you're able to do is get you to hover, and then you're able to just forward, backwards, side to side. So that's the best way to practice and learn. I'm going to demonstrate that here in a minute. The next control you have is actually you're turning the quadcopter. The left stick left will turn the quad left. The right stick right will turn the quad right. So you know, it does take a little time and practice just to get all those controls wrapped around your head and working at once. But if you have any kind of gaming experience or RC experience in you know, in the past, you're probably going to pick up on it pretty quick. But stay tuned. I'm about ready to throw a battery in it, and we'll get it up in the air and show you some of the things we talked about. Before we get this up in the air, I wanted to talk about a couple things that you should be aware of before flying for the first time. First, always be aware of your surroundings. The best place to learn to fly is going to be outside, where you've got all kinds of space to correct your movements and lessen the chances of crashing. If the weather's not permittable, you can't fly outside, learning in the garage is a good place where there's nothing breakable. I don't recommend trying to fly in a tight spot or a small room. So the next thing is, the first time you fly your quad, the first time you get it up in the air, more than likely it's going to have some kind of drift to it. It's going to drift in one direction or the other. And what you do to correct for that is, you may have seen the trim buttons on your radio. You've got two buttons below each stick, which represent left and right. You've got two buttons beside each stick in the center, which represents up and down. So let's say, for example, you take off for a hover for the very first time and it drifts to the right. What you want to do is you want to press that trim button, your right pitch button. You would want to push that to the left. You want to bring it back. And if you press that left too far, it'll start drifting off to the left. So then you would press it right to center. So you want to get a good balanced hover. You know, same thing as if it's tilting a certain direction, you would press your yaw in the opposite direction that it was spinning, so to balance it out. But that's about it. Now let's get this thing in the air. First, you've got to get that hover down. So you get her up in the air, you got to hover. And the next thing you're going to want to practice is just bringing it towards you and away from you. Towards you and away. Do that for a while, practice that, and then you can incorporate left and right. And this entire time you're also adjusting your throttle stick to adjust your hover. So forward, backwards, left, and right. Do that for several batteries. Get a real good control of it. You know, and once you get the forward, backwards, left, then start incorporating them all. This entire time you're keeping the back of the quad towards you, the front of the quad away from you. Now, it gets a little trickier when you work in yaw and you have the quad facing in other directions and away from you. What that does is it changes the orientation of your stick movement to the quad's movement. So, if we put in a little yaw, then we start turning. We have to also work in our throttle forward while we turn, and you eventually learn to work in a little bank with that. So practice those movements and get as many batteries as possible. That's the best way to learn, is to be able to fly as long as possible when you chance to get. But thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit like, check out my other videos, and subscribe.